Hello everyone, welcome back to The Media Couple. I'm Rory.
And I'm Sophie.
Where we break down the latest in film, TV and entertainment from an insider's perspective. Now, what are we talking about today? Sophie, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, so today we are talking about all things Gregg Wallace and MasterChef and the news that's come out about that. We are also going to be doing a deep dive into the use of NDAs in our industry and how that has contributed to everything that we're hearing about now. We are then going to be moving on to a new deal that Disney Plus and ITVx have just done. Is this the beginning of cable television starting again?
Are we going back? Rewind the clock.
Exactly. And then at the very end, we are going to do a Rotten Tomatoes game, which is going to be all about individuals versus powerful institutions.
And I'm going to get all of them right.
So it's a big one. It's a heavy one. A bit of light and shade in there. But yeah, it's going to be a good podcast. So do you want to kick us off?
Absolutely, yeah. So as I'm sure you've been aware of, Gregg Wallace recently was sacked by the BBC over numerous allegations of inappropriate behaviour spanning over the course of 17 years. Now, the BBC currently faces quite a tough call on whether or not to air this series of MasterChef, which was all shot in 2024. Wallace features heavily throughout all of it, so cutting him out of it was not really on the table. He features pretty much in every episode up to the finale, so not something that they're able to address in the edit. And also, Beck 2 have reported that young freelance film and TV crews have come out and said that they felt pressured against speaking up about Gregg Wallace. So let's talk about it. Let's get into that.
Heavy. Well, I mean, I think Gregg Wallace is symptomatic of a bigger problem that we have in our industry.
Absolutely.
Which is he's actually quite emblematic of the problem which we have in our industry, which is we have a culture problem. Yes. We have a culture problem where power is protected and not people. Yeah. And I think that quote you mentioned from Beck 2, that freelancers are afraid to speak up and afraid to talk about it. Yeah. That is the biggest driver behind how these people in these powerful positions, the Harvey Weinsteins of this world, are able to stay in power for so long. And it's also because of the NDAs.
Yeah. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? Because that's come into sort of the light as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so NDAs and gagging orders are essentially used pretty extensively in our industry. I mean, I have firsthand experience in signing NDAs and that are inclusive of particular orders where you can't speak about certain things.
Yeah, okay.
It's basically, they're also included in the contracts. So what happens is you're given a contract, and most of our crew, most of the people who work in this industry are freelancers.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you're given a contract and you are told you have to sign that contract if you want to get the job. Yeah. If you don't sign the contract, you don't get the job. Yeah. Within that contract is a clause that says you cannot speak about anything. It's basically preempting bad behavior. Yeah. From whoever or whatever. And it basically stops you from speaking to the public, to the press, to anybody about anything. Yeah. And it will be a blanket coverall generally.
And normally that lasts a lifetime.
Indefinitely. Yeah. So you can never speak about anything. And so these NDAs and gagging orders can be baked into contracts essentially from day one. So then when things happen, like what's allegedly going on with Gregg Wallace at the moment, the people who have experienced this are not able to speak up because they've signed contracts on these shows, on these programs. Now, I don't know what the MasterChef contract is, and I'm not standing or, sitting here saying, I'm not sitting here saying that they have gagging orders in their contracts. I don't know. Yeah. I can only speak from what I've experienced and what I've seen and what I know. And that's what I'm speaking of here.
Absolutely.
And the contracts that I have seen, majority of the contracts that I have seen have these clauses baked into them. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case with MasterChef.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So you end up with this pool of crew and freelancers who are in this position where they can't talk about anything that's gone wrong. They can't talk about it, but all they're allowed to do is report it internally. Yeah. And the fact that all of this has happened, and we've heard the story again and again. I reported it. I told my manager. I told them this. Nothing came out. Nothing was said. The people who I think really have something to answer for are the executives of the production companies,
Yeah.
the executives of the broadcasters,
Yeah.
and the people who these reports are going into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they are the ones who are protecting essentially the talent over the crew and
over
the
the
freelancers
people
and the victims.
Absolutely. And time again, sort of victims are silenced, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is incredibly hard. And especially as Beck 2 sort of stated, if you're a young professional coming into this industry, you don't want to be coming into it with, sort of a culture of silence, do you? That's something that, even though obviously it's prevalent in not just our industry, but many of them, but that's something that should change. And I hope too will change.
Yeah. But I mean, again, it's also hard, right? Because these NDAs don't just preclude you from talking about bad behavior. They preclude you from talking about any kind of behavior
Anything
whatsoever.
that happens on the production or with the company.
Anything at all. And that's not how NDAs were originally meant to be used, right? NDAs were created to protect trade secrets, to protect companies. For example, KFC is known to have its special, sauce or whatever it is,
Well,
the special spices.
Secret herbs and spices.
Exactly. Right now, the person who knows what the KFC secret herbs and spices probably is under an NDA for trade secrets.
They absolutely are.
Yes, for trade secrets.
Yeah.
That makes sense because KFC doesn't want its secret herbs and spices to go out, and then everybody, and then McDonald's can make KFC.
I completely agree. Or Morley's,
Exactly. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a different story altogether.
That's elite chicken.
But that's what an NDA was created for. An NDA was not created to protect bad behavior. And I think the thing is that's difficult is that technically these NDAs don't stand up.
No.
If something illegal has happened, you can still talk about it to the police.
Of course.
You can report it to a lawyer or your legal representatives. You are allowed to do that. But combining the way that this culture has sort of created and evolved over time with every single company out there using this, it creates a culture of fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a culture of being blacklisted by freelancers. And
a culture of bad behavior.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and feeling like you can get away with it.
Exactly. So it's hard to say that, for somebody from the outside who's looking in, you're going, my God, I've heard so much about this entertainment industry and how many bad people are coming out from this and how many bad stories I'm hearing, and the Gregg Wallace story, the allegations against Russell Brand and Harvey Weinstein and the allegations,
numerous others.
There's been so many that have come out. How is it possible?
And I guarantee you there's a lot more.
Yeah, and there are, right?
A lot more.
There absolutely will be. But the question becomes for the public, well, why can't you talk about it? And it's because each contract has these things baked into it that the freelancers who are experiencing this are being silenced, right? And I think that's where the accountability lies with the production companies and with the broadcasters, because they know that this is happening. They know that this is being sent out. They have access to all of these contracts.
Of course,
in fact, half the time they write these contracts.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? So,
I know a lot of the time they're sort of taken from various contracts from wherever and then put into one sort of single document.
But let's not beat around the bush. Like, these production companies and these broadcasters know full well what they are doing in protecting themselves. They're exploiting this system, this NDA system, for reputational management.
Yeah,
right?
basically, yeah.
And you know what? They're allowed to do that at that point. It's a loophole. Is it ethical? No.
But
are they allowed to do it?
Let's be honest,
yes.
people have been doing it for years.
Exactly.
Like decades even.
Exactly. But what it does is it basically allows serial offenders of any kind of misconduct to stay in work, go to different shows, go from job to job without anybody ever knowing anything.
Yeah.
They remain unchecked, and the victims can't warn anybody.
No.
The victims can't even say anything because they risk legal and reputational ruin themselves most of the time with all the liability put on them. So I think any company that uses NDAs, and that's a lot of companies in this industry, I think what they're doing is they are not only silencing victims, but they are legalizing the victim's trauma. And it's not okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. Very well said.
Anyways, have a lot of feelings about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And rightly so, to be fair. Rightly so, because bad behavior does get overlooked time and time again. And like you said, historically, that is not what the NDA was for.
No.
So it's been completely misused time and time again by various industries to basically mitigate the risk of a production or a company and inevitably hurt the people, mostly when these things go bad.
But positively,
something has come up recently in the news, which they are going to sort of discuss. As of the 8th of July, now we've had some news on NDAs in what the British government are going to look at. So they're looking at amending the Employment Rights Bill, right, to void NDAs and gagging orders in cases of harassment, abuse or discrimination. So exactly like what you've gone into there, it looks like we've got a bit of a silver lining coming here where maybe the UK government have finally looked at these contracts and gone, enough is enough.
Good, because it's so highly unethical across the board. And all it does is just protect the people who are in power. And it creates, the system that allows people like Harvey Weinstein, people like Jimmy Savile to continue to behave in the way that they have behaved, been proven to have behaved.
Yeah, exactly.
And go unchecked.
Yeah.
And we can't allow that anymore.
No.
They're too dangerous.
It very much, the film and TV industry needs a cultural shift. And maybe this is something which is, I definitely think it will help the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So we welcome that. And we will be paying close attention.
We will. And we will look forward to hopefully that all going through and getting passed.
Absolutely. But anyways, moving on.
Yes.
Right. Can you imagine Love Island on Disney Plus or The Bear on ITVx?
No.
Well, let me tell you, you should, because it's happening, right?
Okay, yeah.
ITVx and Disney Plus have struck a content sharing agreement.
Yes.
So each platform will essentially host a taste of, is what they're calling it, the other's library. So it's about, it's about 70 to 100 hours of content that's going to be rotating every 2 months or so.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so the idea is essentially to cross-pollinate audiences between the two.
Oh, interesting.
So we are going to see on Disney Plus UK, we are going to see Love Island, and that includes all the All-Stars as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, yep.
We're going to see Mr. Bates versus the Post Office.
No way, they're going for it. Okay, interesting. Yep.
Shows like Vera.
Yeah. Interesting.
I know. So we're going to see that. Those are just a few of the headlines that we're going to see on Disney Plus soon. And on ITVx, we're going to see The Bear.
The Bear.
Yeah. We're going to see The Kardashians.
Wow.
And Only Murders in the Building.
Wow.
So I thought I wanted to talk about this one today because I think it's a really interesting model, I suppose you could say, that they're using. It's essentially audience trading. So they're using high engagement shows to attract users from a different demographic. It's kind of like similar to, I guess you could say, Instagram collabs.
Yeah,
or like
absolutely.
TikTok crossover things.
So you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yeah,
that type of vibe.
Exactly. It's literally taking the Instagram collab model and just making it between brands, which I think is really interesting.
It is really interesting. I'm not going to lie. I actually like the sound of this idea.
Well, I guess this is the thing. It's what does it really mean though?
Yes.
Right? Okay, who cares, Sophie? Is basically the question. Right? And this is why you should care. Essentially, this is going to change how content gets made, right? If this goes well, because this is the first time they're really doing it between two platforms in the UK, if this goes well, it means that commissioners are then going to be looking for shows that don't just work for their own demographic, but work for the demographic of a different platform as well.
Yeah.
So what we're going to be getting in terms of content and shows is going to be stuff that has particularly broad appeal.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be less niche.
Yeah.
It's going to be less experimental.
Yeah.
And it's going to be less, targeted towards one specific demographic. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good or a bad thing.
So you're saying that you believe the places like Disney will just start making shows for the general masses that can be pushed out across multiple platforms, as opposed to thinking of being like, what makes this show a Disney show or a Netflix show or an Amazon show? What is that? What's our USP?
Yes.
You think it's going to be sort of content will change and it will be a generalization of content that works across a multi-platform sort of system?
Well, yes, because essentially, if they're making X amount of money off of this kind of a deal, they're going to have to think about how their shows can work across platforms because they're going to want to, it's like selling to different territories. Now you're also going to be selling to different platforms. Streamers.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I think that's going to have an impact on what kind of content gets made.
Yeah.
It's going to be, more broad. It's going to be have more mass appeal. There's only, there's the shows that I mentioned are broad and they do have mass appeal to a point.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You mentioned Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I feel like the Kardashians, I mean, they're a global brand. I feel like ITV are kind of winning there. I mean, that's a great show.
Well, Disney are winning with Love Island, though.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, I think both of those shows, I mean, there's winning in both of the things they're trading, right? But I think, especially with Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, that is such a British story that I'm like, oh, it's really interesting because it hasn't really been shown globally as of yet.
Well, it's just Disney Plus UK at the moment, from my understandanding. It's just Disney
so if you
UK.
had Disney Plus in the US, you won't be able to watch it.
Not from what I'm understanding.
Okay.
So it's just, all it is basically is to bring in ITVx's audience to Disney Plus
and Disney Plus's.
and vice versa.
Okay,
if the only
interesting.
reason you wanted to watch Disney was to watch the Kardashians, but now it's on ITVx. I mean, it kind of works both ways. You're now going to go, oh, well, I'll just have ITVx. That's great.
Yeah. Because do you pay for ITVx?
Yeah.
You do pay for it. Okay, fine. Yeah.
But the other thing that I think this is actually ultimately leading to, which is why I think it's important and why I think it's a very interesting step.
Drum roll.
It's soft launching bundle deals.
Right.
Right?
Can you say that more in a salesman voice? It's soft launching bundle deals.
No, you do it much better than me.
Fine. Yep.
Yeah.
Continue.
So you think about what streaming used to be, right? It used to be cancel anytime and no adverts and you can choose whatever you want to pay for and so on.
True. And I could take up a Sky TV package and I'd be shown a wealth of content from various sort of platforms on there. Well, various shows.
Well, no, that's comes later, doesn't it? Right? Netflix, when it started, what everybody loved about Netflix is you had cable where was so exorbitantly expensive.
Yeah.
But Netflix was just curating content for you that you could watch.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to pay huge cable prices.
Like £5 or something when it started. Yeah.
Exactly. You didn't have the huge cable prices. You could cancel any time. You didn't have any ads.
True. Yeah.
Right? And that's what made Netflix so appealing to so many people. Now we're in a world where how many streaming services do we have?
Oh,
I mean, we have so many.
Yeah.
We have so many subscriptions.
Yeah.
Half the time when you see a new show come out, you have to Google where I can watch it. And half the time it's on a streaming service that you don't pay for.
Yeah.
Right? And if you were to pay for all the streaming services now, you would be paying more than what you were for cable back in the day.
Yeah, true.
Right?
That is true. Yeah.
So we've essentially come to the same problem that streaming services solved, right? But streaming has created the problem for themselves.
Do you reckon the old cable tycoons of generations ago are like,
back and going, ha, ha, ha.
I told you all this would happen. I told you all.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I think this deal is important, because what this deal is doing is it's trialing bundling.
Yes.
So it's trialing bundling Disney content and ITVx content together.
Yeah.
If this goes well, ultimately, all this is going to be is a new version of cable.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're just going to go, oh, great. Well, we know that they like the Kardashians, so we're going to get more content that's like the Kardashians and put it on ITVx.
Yeah.
So we have Love Island, Kardashians, like whatever other shows, Secret Life of Mormon Wives, and shows that are in that vein.
That sort of reality
from lots
stuff.
of different. Lots of different things. We're going to say, hey, if you want to watch Disney Plus shows, you can add an extra £3 to your fee. Or if you want to watch Disney Plus and HBO shows, you can add an extra £12.
They're upselling. Yeah.
Exactly. Which, does that feel familiar to anybody?
It does,
It should,
funnily
because
enough.
that's how it worked back in 2000, everybody.
Yeah, that's very true.
So
that's very true.
That's the end goal here.
I mean, even now, we think about our Sky TV package, right? We have Sky. We took out Sky, and one of the upsells from Sky was you get Netflix bundled in for the same price. You get your 4K Netflix, and it's the exact same sort of principles apply.
It's cable, but I just think it's interesting that now the streamers are now cashing in on, well, not quite cashing in, but trying to set the path to cash in on that bundling sort of era. It's basically the same thing, just repackaged.
Yeah.
And we're gonna, we're already in that place where we've got all the ads and we're having to pay £1,001 to watch
get
something.
rid of them. Yeah.
So it's like the whole disruptor that essentially made these streaming platforms big is kind of dead.
Yeah, it's come full circle.
It's full circle. We're
Yeah.
right back at the very beginning.
They're all sat around the boardroom going, God, how did we end up back here?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we were here 20 years ago. Like, why are we here now?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it'd be interesting to see. I mean, it'd be interesting to see if someone like Netflix, maybe next month, next year, who knows? We'll see Netflix as giving the BBC a load of their shows.
Yeah. Well, let me know. Would you guys pay? Would you guys pay for a bundle? Say Disney said, hey, you can pay an extra £3 on your Disney subscription to also get access to all of ITVx shows. Would you pay for it? Let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
Let us
be
know in the
interesting to hear.
comments.
Right.
yeah.
I guess now's the time.
And now we move on.
Rotten Tomato
Rotten
time.
Tomatoes time. Individuals versus powerful institutions. The first one, a good film. I enjoyed this film.
Yep.
Erin Brockovich.
Oh, now we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
That is Julia Roberts' finest performance.
You think
I think so.
finest?
I think so.
Not Pretty Woman?
Well, no, Pretty Woman's cat,
Pretty
no, but
Woman.
Erin Brockovich, she was bad. She was good.
Bad.
No, but like
Bad in a good way.
I didn't want to say the following words.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I don't want to bleep it out in post.
Fair.
But she was good. She was powerful. I liked her.
Right.
I'm gonna go for audience score 90.
Okay.
Critics 95.
Oh, interesting. Okay, the audience score was 81.
Okay, fine.
Critically, 85.
Okay, fine. I mean, it did win awards, that film. I'm
It
pretty
did.
sure it
was
did.
it was a
Yeah.
great film.
It was a really solid film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
liked it.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's still quite high.
I think
that's
it could
fair.
have done better though.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it deserved more.
Yeah, I agree. The Post.
The Post.
Meryl Streep,
Oh,
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Yes, that's the
2017, I think it came out.
Okay, I'm going to go for a audience score of 75,
Mm-hmm.
critic score of 80.
Wow, you were very close. Audience score 74%.
Come on.
Critic score of 88%.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well,
Very
clearly it was really liked.
I'm surprised audiences liked it that considerably less than critically.
That is quite
I
the
thought it was a
difference is
really-
quite big there.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. Anyways, moving on. Spotlight.
Oh, no, I like this film. This is
Yeah.
a good film.
Spotlight, I could watch again and again.
Yeah.
Spotlight, Interstellar, and The Big Short. Those are the three films that I could watch again and again and again, and I feel like I would not get bored.
Yeah, they're also the only 3 films Sophie has on DVD. Blu-ray, sorry. On cable.
I don't have them on cable. Yeah, I recorded them.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we've got them all recorded.
Yeah.
Audience score 88.
Okay.
Critically 95.
Ooh, close. Audience 93.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, critically 97%.
97. Yeah, I mean, it was so good.
It was so
It's
good.
one of those films where you just, if anyone was like, do you want to watch a good film? You'd put that on the table and be like, this is a good film.
Yeah,
For
it
even
is.
someone who's like, oh, I don't really watch many films, you'd be like, you should watch this film.
Yeah,
it's
and
a
it's
very
one
good.
of those that like you don't need to, there are some really good horror films, but they're too gory.
Yeah.
Like this kind of a film is like you have to be in the mood for like a serious gripping drama.
Yeah.
But it's a great serious dripping.
Serious dripping drama.
Dripping. Anyways, Moneyball.
Money. Oh, also,
Show
these
me
are
the money.
These are some good films today.
Yeah, I know.
Moneyball. Audience score 86.
Mm-hmm.
Critically 90.
Oh my God, Rory. Congratulations.
Did I do it?
Dun, 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 dun.
What did I tell you?
Audience score 86%. Well done.
Look, what can I say?
You failed on the critics, though.
Okay, fine. Straight back down to earth.
94% on
Okay,
critics.
94. What did I say? 90.
90.
Yeah,
You're 4%
okay,
off.
4% off. But audience score. Look, I'm a man of
hit
the
the
people.
nail on the
okay,
head.
people say that. I'm a man of
they?
the people.
Who
yeah.
who are the people?
People on this podcast.
Ah.
You've said it.
Have
haven't
I?
you? You could say it now.
Right.
Okay, she's
No.
not going to say it. Look, guys, okay, I'm a man of the people, which is why 86% for the audience score. I was one of those audience members.
Mm-hmm.
So what can I say on that bombshell?
On that note.
Well, on that win, that massive victory, we're going to remember this episode forever. Thank you so much for listening. Right, Sophie?
Yes. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If you did enjoy this, please like, subscribe, or just leave us a comment. And if you did enjoy listening to this, if you're listening on podcasts, you're definitely listening on podcasts.
They're definitely listening on podcasts. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify.
Yes, please leave us a review. That does really help, and it helps other people find us. Or send this to somebody who you think would benefit from listening to this episode.
Yeah.
Anyways, we put these out every single Thursday. Thank you for being here this time, and we will see you next week.
See you on the next one, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.